Nothing technical failed here. That's the uncomfortable part. The system worked exactly as it was designed to. Flawlessly. Even the servers hummed along, the code executed, the firewalls stood guard. It was a beautiful, predictable machine doing its beautiful, predictable job. The real problem, as it so often is, was the people. The messy, unpredictable, and sometimes far too trusting people. The system was perfect. The humans, however, were not. Trust didn't feel like a risk. It felt efficient, like a brilliant life hack. Why spend hours figuring something out yourself when someone else could just handle it? It's the ultimate delegation. You offload a problem, and poof, it's gone. It's not your concern anymore. It frees up your time, your mental energy. It felt like smart management, like getting ahead of the curve. It was the path of least resistance, paved with good intentions and a healthy dose of convenience. Why do the heavy lifting when you can just find someone who looks strong? And the person, oh, they were perfect. They sounded so informed, so confident, helpful even. They had the right answers, used the right jargon. It was like they had read the manual, memorized the playbook, and were now generously sharing their expertise. They spoke with an authority that made questioning them feel, well, a little rude, a little foolish. They projected an aura of competence so bright it was blinding. And in most situations, that's more than enough, isn't it? We're all just looking for the person who sounds like they know what they're doing. Trust is rarely a sudden leap of faith. It's not a dramatic, one-time decision. No, it's much more subtle than that. It builds through a series of small permissions. A slow drip of little yeses. Can you handle this small thing? Yes. Can you look at that? Sure. Can I give you access to this little corner? Why not? Each step feels insignificant on its own. A tiny, harmless concession. Each permission is a pebble. And you, Dan T, notice you've rebuilt a mountain until you're standing on top of it, wondering how you got there. And here's the clever part. Access wasn't demanded. It was offered, volunteered even. It wasn't a forceful break-in. It was someone politely holding the door open and being invited inside. Here, take the keys. It'll just be easier that way. That difference matters more than anything. A demand raises alarms, triggers suspicion. An offer, on the other hand, feels like collaboration. It feels like you're the one in control, making a generous and intelligent choice. It's not a hostile takeover. It's a friendly merger. At first, nothing went wrong. Absolutely nothing. The reports were filed. The tasks were completed. The emails were answered. Everything ticked along smoothly. In fact, things seemed to be running better than before. And that quiet, uneventful period was the most dangerous part. It made the initial decision to trust feel completely justified, vindicated, even. See, I made the right call. This was a smart move. That initial success became the proof, the solid evidence that your gut feeling was right all along. This is exactly how trust accelerates. Silence starts to feel like proof of success. No news is good news. No alerts, no problems, no red flags must mean everything is fine. The absence of disaster is mistaken for the presence of competence. This quiet hum of normalcy becomes the soundtrack to your growing confidence. You stop checking, you stop verifying, because the silence has already convinced you that there's nothing to see. The lack of a storm isn't just calm weather. It's a guarantee the sun will shine forever. The line was never really crossed. There was no single moment of dramatic betrayal. Instead, the line was just moved, slowly, millimeter by millimeter, day by day. It was nudged so gradually that you never noticed it shifting. What was once a hard boundary becomes a suggestion, and then a forgotten landmark. The line was redrawn so many times that eventually no one could remember where it was supposed to be in the first place. It is not a violation if the rules change so subtly that you don't even realize you're replaying a different game. Soon, responsibilities started to blend. Boundaries softened until they were just blurry suggestions. Assumptions formed and hardened into accepted facts. Oh, I thought they were handling that. Weren't you supposed to be watching this? The roles became so intertwined that it was impossible to see where one person's job ended and another's began. It was a beautiful, chaotic mess of shared duties and unspoken agreements. It was teamwork in its most dysfunctional and catastrophic form. Trust works best when nothing happens. It's a wonderful, efficient tool for maintaining the status quo. When the seas are calm and the path is clear, trust is your best friend. It keeps things moving. It reduces friction. It makes life easy. It's the perfect lubricant for a well-oiled machine that isn't actually being challenged by anything. But that's also precisely when it's least tested. It's like owning a world-class umbrella that you've only ever used indoors. You're confident it works, but you've never actually stood with it in a downpour. So, the real mistake wasn't believing someone. Believing people is, for the most part, how society functions. The mistake was not checking again and again after that. It was the sin of assumption. It was the initial verification followed by a long, comfortable period of blissful ignorance. It was trusting but forgetting the verify part. That initial checkmark was treated as a permanent stamp of approval, valid for all time. No further questions asked. And by the time the first little doubts started to appear, a relationship already existed. It wasn't just a professional arrangement anymore. There was history. There were shared jokes, mutual favors, a sense of camaraderie. You'd been in the trenches together, even if those trenches were just figurative email chains. It was no longer a simple transaction. It was a connection, and that makes everything so much more complicated. Undoing trust feels deeply personal. It feels like an accusation. It's like telling a friend you're going to start locking your doors, not because of burglars, but because of them. It's awkward. It's confrontational. It implies you made a mistake, that your judgment was flawed. So people avoid it. They put it off. They find excuses. They tell themselves it's probably nothing. They wait, hoping the problem will just magically resolve itself, long past the point where they know, deep down, that it won't. The damage, when it finally came, wasn't immediate. It didn't arrive with a bang or a crash. It arrived quietly, politely, long after confidence had settled in and become comfortable. It seeped in through the cracks that everyone had agreed to ignore. The damage was a slow leak, not a sudden flood. It waited until everyone was looking the other way, until the guards were down and the celebrations for a job well done were already underway. The systems noticed the change first. Of course they did. An algorithm saw the anomaly. A log file recorded the strange activity. A server flagged a deviation from the norm. But machines, with their cold, impartial logic, saw the numbers that didn't add up. But systems don't have feelings. They don't have personal relationships. People noticed later, much later, after the automated alerts were dismissed as glitches, after the strange patterns were explained away as quirks. People were the last to know, because trust doesn't fail loudly. It doesn't throw a tantrum or smash the windows. It fails politely. It fails with a plausible excuse and a friendly smile. It fails in a way that makes you second-guess your own suspicions. It fails so courteously that you almost feel bad for noticing something is wrong. Its collapse is quiet, orderly, and almost apologetic. It's a silent implosion, not a fiery explosion. And by the time it's questioned, It's already done its work. The damage is complete. The system is compromised. The foundation is gone. You're left standing in the rubble, holding a very polite letter of resignation, wondering how you never saw it coming. The questions come far too late. A post-mortem for a patient that was lost long before anyone even called a doctor. The inquiry begins only after the house has already burned to the ground.